So just to summarise, the four main components of greywater recycling systems for domestic applications then would be a tank with your pre-filter. So you have your greywater filter to remove solid particles before it enters your underground storage tank. You'll have a disinfection system. That's where your stored fluid is subjected to a disinfection process or chlorination, and that's basically to kill off the bacteria and any bacteria that's in the water and to prevent smells developing or odours developing. You'll also have a submersible pump within your storage tank, and basically the job of that is to pump the water up to the header tank of the toilets or into the cisterns of the toilet, or basically into a header tank that will then distribute it into the cisterns for toilet flushing. And then your header tank, basically it's a standard header tank located in the attic or somewhere else in the house, and has a low level float switch in which basically a ball cock, and as the water in the header tank drops, there basically sends a call to the underground storage to activate the little electrical pump, a little submersible pump, and that then pumps water up and feeds the header tank. Domestic applications will tend to have a backup, so if there's insufficient grey water available, a second low level switch will operate, which will top up the header tank via a pseudo air gap, as we've seen in a previous lesson, and basically it'll top it up from the mains water and it'll store it prior to use and demand. So here's a schematic of an indirect domestic greywater recycling system. So we haven't put in this diagram the schematics of the showers and baths and sinks, but you can see here that's where your greywater from your bath, showers and wash basin come down into your storage tank of the greywater recycling system. So you have an overflow pipe coming out, and then within the system here in section 2, this section here in the left hand corner, it'll be, in this case this uses bromine disinfection. So the greywater backwashes over bromine tablets and comes into the sump chamber, and there's a fully controllable valve that'll allow the rate of disinfection, either light or heavy disinfection, to be undertaken. The second part here, the pre-filter, that's your greywater passes over basically a fine gauze, and about 90% of the water is filtered and then collected in the tank. 10% is washed away straight out to the drain as part of a self-cleaning process. Within your tank you'll have a submersible electrical pump, and this is basically for greywater delivery and disinfection feed, because it also feeds the disinfection. The system will also be provided with a low level float switch, and basically that's there to protect the electrical pump from running when there's no water, no greywater in the sump. So if that gets tripped, there's no water there to drive up to the header tank, so it'll just not run, because running a pump dry can seriously damage a pump. And when there's no water in your greywater system, then that's where your mains water top-up's used here to fill your header tank. So basically that's the operation of a typical indirect domestic system. So whenever the toilet's flushed, water gets drained out of your header tank, your ball valve drops, this sends a signal to the electrical pump here to kick in, and then it pumps greywater back up and tops up the cylinder. And it'll continue doing that until the ball valve reaches its set level to turn off the flow. If there's no water, as I say, in the greywater system, then it gets topped up from the mains water instead. Similarly, greywater recycling systems can be installed in direct flow systems as opposed to the indirect systems. And again, the components down here are similar in the greywater recycling system. Your greywater from your bath and shower and basin pass in again, disinfection point, pre-filter, your electrical pump and your overflow. The main difference in this system is you'll have a master control unit that's supplied as part of your greywater recycling system. So when there's a demand for the toilet, or when there's a pressure drop due to the toilet flushing, this master control unit then determines if there's enough water in the greywater recycling system to top up your cistern from there, or if there's not, it'll take your top up directly from the mains water top up. So Grey water recycling systems, they come in all sizes, from small sort of domestic applications to very large commercial applications, and they have been installed in sort of small terraced houses. So there's an example, a case study of an award-winning eco home in Brighton, small terraced house that saves 100 litres of water per day by using a grey water recycling system. So for example, this home achieved an Eco Homes Excellence standard due to water conservation measures that it used, including water meter, dual flush toilets, rainwater harvesting and grey water recycling, and all in a small terraced house. So this technology is not just for big houses or commercial applications, it's also applicable to small terraced buildings. And in this example, the grey water system takes the wastewater from the bath, stores it in an underground tank outside, and then basically processes it with bromine tablets, and then when the dual flush toilet is flushed, it draws the grey water up into from the tank and puts it in the cistern. So in this case study, the outcome is a rough combined water bill of less than £100 a year. So the total water bill for the house comes in at less than £100. So significant saving on the water bills for this property. So the benefits of grey water recycling: if it's used for toilet flushing, a well-designed system can potentially save about a third of the mains water that's used in the home. You can also reuse the grey water for other uses where you don't necessarily need drinking quality water or potable water. So you can use it for gardening, watering the garden, washing the cars, washing pathways, etc. The largest proportion of grey water used means that you'll have less of a demand on your mains water need, which has two benefits. It eases the pressure on the water resources from the water company's point of view, but it also reduces your bills, particularly if you're on metered supplied mains water. So reusing grey water reduces the consumption of your mains water, but it also reduces the volume of water that you discharge into the sewerage system, which again, most water areas where you're charged on or metered on your water, you get a charge for what you use, and then you also get a charge for what you put into the sewerage system. So you're sort of missing out on, or you're reducing two charges in water metered areas. So consumers with water meters could therefore save significant amount of money on both their water supply and their wastewater bills. So although water charges are not yet in place in Northern Ireland, it has been in the headlines of the news in recent times, and it is likely that there is going to be water charges in Northern Ireland at some stage. And if in cases where the supply is metered, then grey water and or rainwater recycling systems would be able to save the householder some money in their water bills. So in summary, the main benefits of grey water recycling are less mains water consumption, significantly reduced water costs, it has a reduced environmental impact because you're using less water, it's cost-effective BREEAM points in the BREEAM calculation, you get an enhanced capital allowance as well for companies that install grey water recycling, you get a tax allowance from HMRC. Typical payback of a system is somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 years. It's cost effective as well in comparison to rainwater harvesting. Its daily supply per person roughly equates to the demand, so you're not relying on rainfall, which is another benefit. And the storage capacity needed is less than with a rainfall system, which saves both space and cost. So just to finish off, there's the 4 main components again of a grey water recycling system. Important points to note are the 4 main components, and most grey water recycling systems will have these 4 main components in the system. So just to finish off, we have a couple of videos showing both rainwater harvesting and grey water recycling as they're applied in Germany. So by following the top link, rainwater harvesting, either clicking here or typing the following into your browser, you can see the rainwater harvesting video, and then there's another video on grey water recycling. So you can either click here to access that video or type the link directly into your browser. And that will, once you've viewed the videos, that concludes this module on underground drainage systems or below ground drainage systems, and with a focus also on rainwater harvesting and grey water recycling.